All right, hello everyone. We're going to be starting the webinar in just a few moments, so hang tight and we'll get going here in just a minute. Well, it looks like we're having a good crowd here today. We've got over 50 people on already, so we'll give others a few more minutes to get on, and then we'll get started. So just hang tight for a few minutes. All right, we'll get started here in just a couple of minutes. We're still giving people time to jump on, so we'll start here in just a few moments. All right, everybody, we'll get started here in just a moment. I'd like to first introduce myself. My name is Mike McAvoy. I'm the Director of Marketing here at Cahoot. I'll be moderating today's webinar. And before I introduce the co-host, I'd like to give you a quick overview of how today's webinar is going to work. So we'll be sending a recording of the webinar out to everyone in a couple of days. That's one of the first questions we always get asked, so that will be coming your way. You won't need your camera or your microphone today. And we invite you to ask questions anytime throughout the webinar. You'll see at the bottom of your screen a little Q&A button, so feel free to ask questions there. We've got a couple of people here that will be able to answer those in line. And at the end of the presentation, we'll do more of a live Q&A session to answer some of the questions that kind of came up a lot. And also, a couple of times throughout the webinar, we will do a couple of quick polls just to get a better feel for the audience and things like that. And I think we can go ahead and start with our first poll. Great. You should see a poll on your screen. So just a couple of quick questions there about whether or not you're currently using Seller Fulfilled Prime, and also a little bit about what you're most interested in learning about today. So we want to make sure that we cover those things in more detail. So I'll leave that up here for just a minute or so, and then share the results with you. And if you're just joining, we will start the webinar here in just a moment. Serving up a quick poll just to get a better feel for the audience and what you're interested in learning about today. So just kind of, click the buttons there in the poll, and I'll share those results here in just a moment, and then introduce the speakers. All right. So it looks like about 24% of the people here are already doing Seller Fulfilled Prime on a regional basis. About half are doing it nationally. A few people, used to do it, but aren't doing it any longer. Some of the things that people are most interested in are learning about the new SFP requirements, how to configure their account, monitoring their performance, and things like that. So I think we're going to be covering all of that here during the webinar. So you're in the right place. And now that we've got that housekeeping out of the way, I'd like to go ahead and introduce our co-host and panelists for today. So first up, we've got Manish Chowdhury from Cahoot. He's the founder and CEO of Cahoot. He has over 20 years of experience in e-commerce. He founded an award-winning order management system called Pulse Commerce. He's been featured in the New York Times, Entrepreneur Magazine, Digital Commerce 360, and several other leading publications in the industry. We also have James Brazil from GeekSeller. He's the enterprise account manager. He's got over a decade of experience in technology and e-commerce. He puts a lot of focus into fostering strong relationships and helping entrepreneurs grow their business. As I mentioned, you are invited and encouraged to ask questions throughout the webinar. So we have a couple of panelists on here that'll be helping with that. From Cahoot, we've got Aldi. He'll be answering the Cahoot related questions, and then Daniel from GeekSeller will be answering questions that come up for those guys. And again, we'll be doing a live Q&A at the end. So without further ado, I'd like to go ahead and hand it over to Manish. Go ahead and take it away, Manish.
Thank you, Mike. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for attending today's webinar. Let's start with the new Amazon SFP requirements. They essentially boil down to three major changes that are taking place come February 1. And Amazon revised its program guidelines as early as last week, so we'll cover that as well. With respect to the changes, there are three big changes. Now on the product details page, merchants will be asked to meet 1-day and 2-day delivery promise, and we'll break down each one for the audience momentarily. The second big change is weekend pickups and delivery. Amazon, as part of the new SFP guidelines, wants sellers to shipping out packages at least one of the two weekend days, Saturday or Sunday. And the third big change is there's no more regional SFP allowed for standard items. And we'll break that down as well. And that's probably one of the biggest changes in addition to weekend pickup and delivery. So Amazon revised its program, as I mentioned last week. Now, if you go on the Amazon, your product detail page on Amazon, Amazon will now measure the number of times or the percentage of times your product page promises 1 calendar day delivery to the shopper and also 2 calendar day delivery to the shopper. On February 1, they expect, if you're part of the SFP program, that you must promise at least 20% one day, and you must promise at least 55% 2 calendar day to the shopper. And these numbers will go up to 30% and 70% respectively. And there's a lot of subtlety in how these numbers are computed, and we'll break this down for you. So Amazon, citing the pandemic and carrier-related constraints, has offered some relief on these metrics for about 4 months, but June 1 will be around the corner very shortly. So what does this mean in terms of one day and 2 calendar day promise? We will be looking at a screenshot of the Amazon product page to bring this point home. However, 1 day delivery promise is not the same as getting your orders delivered in 1 business day. So there's a very stark difference between how Amazon will be measuring this metric and how you will meet that compliance. And it is very important to understand this difference because it can be somewhat misleading. So if you look at the product detail page on Amazon, Amazon promises, provides a guideline to the shopper on when that product will be delivered. So in this particular case, if the product page serves up tomorrow and it's today, then this will indeed count as 1 calendar day promise towards the 20% metric that we have. However, it depends as to what time of day the shopper is visiting this page, because if the shopper is visiting this page after the cutoff time, then Amazon is going to display day after tomorrow, not tomorrow. Because if the page is visited before your cutoff time, let's say on a Monday, you will ship the order out on Monday, and using, let's say, a service with 1 day delivery service, and it arrives on Tuesday, then that will constitute and that will meet the 1 day promise. However, the same identical product, if viewed after your cutoff time on Monday, then Amazon is going to display on the page that the product will arrive on Wednesday if it is within the 1 day radius via ground, if you've configured your shipping template. So let's say 2 p.m. is your standard cutoff time, and the shopper visits the page at 2:05. They're not going to see that the product arrives on Tuesday. They'll actually see the product arrives on Wednesday. So even if you ship the product on Monday and it arrives on Tuesday, it will still not count towards that metric, even though you've exceeded the promise that was made to the shopper. It is very closely tied to the cutoff time and what is displayed to the shopper. So in those circumstances, expediting that delivery does not earn you any bonus points as far as the SFP program is concerned. So to break it down, if you're operating Monday through Friday and you're using the standard cutoff time for same day orders, which is 2 p.m., you cannot make it any earlier than 2 p.m. local time. That's the Amazon requirements. So you get about 14 hours a day, Monday through Friday, where you can technically display one-day promise. But after 2 p.m. until midnight, the shopper is going to see day after tomorrow, and therefore those page views will only constitute and help you towards your 2-day metrics. So if you look on a calendar, and we've made the assumption here that you're operating at 2 p.m. cutoff time, which is the standard SFP cutoff time, and you're operating on Saturday, which is the new requirement that you're shipping out packages and handing them over to the carrier on Saturday. So using that math, you get about 14 hours a day, and if you're operating up to 2 p.m. on Saturday, so you multiply that times 6, those are the days or hours you can count towards your 1 day. And of course, assuming that the traffic is evenly distributed for sake of simplicity on this chart. And the remainder of the time, you will not be displaying 1-day promise to the shopper. And after 2 p.m. on Saturday, if that's your cutoff time, you Amazon, and you're not operating on Sunday, you will not even show 2-day, because during that red zone here, you'll be displaying 3 calendar days, because you will ship out on Monday, the product will arrive on Tuesday. So this can be very confusing to a lot of sellers, and it's not a simple math. And of course, if you have questions, please reach out to us, and if we can answer this in today's webinar, we'll get in touch with you and help you sort this out. But it's suffice to say that it's not as simple. So one of the easiest strategies that you can employ, if you have the option, is adjusting your cutoff time. So you can make it as early as 2 p.m. local time, or you can go as late as 5:30 p.m. local time. That's what's allowed by Amazon on different days. You can adjust it by day. So if you have the ability to hand the packages to the carriers much later, you can capture more time during the weekdays and maximize that page view metrics. So this is one of the easiest things you can do. However, keep in mind that Amazon has very stringent metrics in order to remain qualified for SFP program, which is 99% on-time shipping. So if you adjust your time and you cannot fulfill or you cannot ship the order that same day, it can get you in trouble. So you have to be very mindful of that. Or if Amazon does not see the carrier origin scan, that is also a problem, because that's how Amazon knows whether the package is indeed in transit or not. But this is something that if you have the ability, you can easily do this. Speaking of compliance and metrics, Amazon is offering new metrics that's available on your dashboard. So if you're an SFP seller, you should be seeing those metrics, and it's an easy place for you to keep on top of whether you're in compliance with 1-day and 2-day SFP targets or not. And there's also an ASIN level report, so you can look at each item and how you're meeting those metrics. And if any item is not meeting those metrics, you may consider removing them and also adjusting your advertising dollars accordingly if you're using any advertising to those pages, because these program requirements gets very complex very quickly, and staying on top of these metrics is super important. Further, with regards to the Saturday and Sunday or the weekend pickup and delivery, the impact to sellers is quite large. It's not just arranging for carrier pickup, but you need to think about having your operations or your building open, which will mean higher utility bills. If you have shifts in your warehouse, then you may have to think about rearranging them, hiring additional staff, training that staff, because those orders cannot be late. If it's a prime order, there's very, very little margin of error. Only 1 out of 100 order can be shipped late, and only 1 out of 200 orders can be canceled by the seller. So very, very stringent metrics, and also making sure that the carrier's pickups are scheduled and there's no lapse in that. And there might be some implication on overtime wages with respect to weekend hours and potentially security, building security, and so on. So there's a lot of change that a seller would have to accommodate and prepare for if they plan on doing Saturday or Sunday. We recommend operating on Saturday just because those are the days that the carriers are actually operating. Sunday, even though some carriers might do pick up, but our conversations with customers reveal that there's not going to be a lot of movement on the package on Sundays. So the package will, even though the carrier might accept the package, they may or may not actually move that package much. So, but something to be aware of. Of course, carrier-related considerations. FedEx and UPS have now started doing 7-day delivery, but of course it doesn't apply to all zip codes. They have certain restrictions on what services are available in what zip codes. So you may want to speak with your account representative. And also, if the pickup can be scheduled with your carrier. Our information reveals that there's no hard and fast rule. You do need to speak with your account representative at FedEx and UPS to confirm whether they can make that pickup available. USPS can also provide pickup on Saturday, but not on Sunday. And most services through FedEx and UPS, if they're eligible for weekend delivery, do not appear to have an extra charge. But again, the devil is in the detail. Please refer to your contracts and also speak with your account representatives. Regional carriers have not yet started offering weekend pickups or delivery. We have example of one regional carrier that can offer Saturday delivery, but there's a extra charge for that. So you will see that those options will not be available if you're printing label through Amazon Buy Shipping. So all of those things also need to be accounted for as you're thinking about preparing yourself for the new SFP guidelines. So one may think of this as a big threat, or you may think of this as an opportunity. But such big changes and shifts that are happening driven by Amazon, we believe at Cahoot that this is simply a sign of things to come. Just like if you had a store in the mall, you will be required to operate 7 days a week. You cannot turn off that store or close that store on Saturday and Sunday. It is a requirement. And that's the shift that's happening in e-commerce, especially on marketplaces. Marketplaces want customers to receive their products faster, and they want sellers to be operating on weekends, starting with one of the days, but most likely very soon they may even require both days. So previously, if you were operating in regional seller fulfilled prime, most sellers were happy with regional prime because they could carve out a radius around their warehouse and what items they can deliver via ground service and what zip codes. And say if you were located in California, you would carve out a shipping template accordingly. And so could Alfred in Texas, Betty in Florida, and Charlie in New York. And there wasn't a lot of overlap. That means Charlie wasn't selling into your territory and you were not interfering much in Charlie's territory. However, now, once regional SFP goes away, then the challenge is if, let's say, you elect not to do national seller fulfilled prime and Charlie, Alfred, and Betty decide to jump on this bandwagon, now all the customers in your region will now see offers from Charlie, Alfred, and Betty. So if you decide not to do anything, the shoppers in California and adjoining states will now see offers from these other sellers, and that will make you less competitive. Not only will it make you less competitive on your prime offers, it will also interfere with your non-prime offers, because if Charlie elects to put that item on prime that you're competing with and you don't offer prime, the shopper will most likely see Charlie's offer before yours. And sometimes even if Charlie's pricing is slightly higher, because if the Prime shopper is logged in, they're likely to see the Prime offers ahead of non-Prime offers. So this can have a very large impact for sellers who choose not to do anything and they operate in a competitive product category where there are several offers from other sellers. And once these sellers figure out how to offer nationwide Prime, and if they operate on other channels, then they're most likely going to offer the same kind of delivery promise on their other channels. So not only do sellers get impacted on Amazon, but they will also potentially get impacted on other channels where the seller doesn't have to incur the Amazon commission fees, where they have the opportunity to potentially even offer a sweeter deal on other channel. So this can have a very wide-ranging impact for sellers. And we believe at Cahoot that free and fast shipping is here to stay. And it's not just about complying with the SFP program, but really preparing for the future. So what are some of the options? What can you do? Of course, the simplest thing is if you can offer expedited shipping from your own warehouse without having to do anything else, and the express shipping is affordable, then you really don't need to worry much. You simply pay for the express shipping. But in reality, what we found is for most sellers and using most carriers, the 1-day and 2-day air services are significantly more expensive. 2-day is more than twice, and 1-day delivery is almost 4 times. So it's not a practical solution for most sellers. And this is an example with numbers. And your numbers may vary. Another solution is to have distributed inventory and have your inventory located in multiple locations. I know we have a poll coming up as to, we would love to know how many locations do you think you need in order to meet the February and June requirements. So Mike, if you want to explain what the poll is.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a little bit of a trick question. Like, we'll be curious to see what people's thoughts are. But basically, the first question is, how many locations do you currently use, whether it's your own warehouse or maybe you work with some 3PLs and that sort of thing. And then how many do you think that you'll need to have to meet the new Amazon SFP page view requirements that we've described? So I'm curious to see what people think about that. And then we'll go into some more details on the math behind what you actually really do need for that. One other comment I want to make while we have this poll up is that we've got a lot of great questions that are just really flooding in, and we're trying to get to them as quickly as we can. And just want to let people know that if we don't get to your question live during the webinar, we will make sure that we come through all those and address them in the following day or two if we can't get to your questions during the webinar. So we'll leave this poll up for just another moment. All right. Yeah, I think we've got a pretty good response now. So let's share these results. And Manish, I don't know if you can see these or not, but So basically, it looks like about half the people have, or actually about 65% of the people have one location. Another percentage there, about 12% have 2, and then going up to 4. Just a handful that have more than 5. So the predominant answer to how many fulfillment locations people think they need to have is 4. So we've got a few here. About 32% think that 2 will work. 43% think that 4 will work, going all the way up to 8 and 10, 4 and 7% respectively. So I think these next few slides and part of this will really shed some light.
Excellent. Thank you, Mike. Looks like several of our audience did get some numbers right. So once again, to reemphasize, 1 calendar day promise is not equal to your 1-day coverage. That's the key distinction with respect to the Prime program, the new SFP guidelines. The rule of thumb, and there's some a lot of math behind it, you should be thinking in terms of twice. That means if you need to display 1 calendar day promise, you should be delivering at least twice that percentage of orders in 1 day. That's the simplified math, but of course, please reach out to us and we can walk you through it. So in case of, if you want to do 1 calendar day promise on the Amazon product detail page, you should have at least twice that in 1 day delivery coverage. And this is, of course, using ground service, using one of the national carriers. If you want to meet the February 1 guidelines for 1 day promise, you should have 4 locations that would help you achieve about 42% 1 day coverage through ground. And to meet the June requirements of 30% 1 day, you would need about 9 locations, give or take. So that's the short answer. With respect to what other strategies can you employ as you're thinking about these changes is, if you have some items that are moving really fast, you can and you should do nationwide SFP, but you're moving ample quantities because you need to take the inbound freight cost into consideration as well, because sending inventory to 8 or 9 locations or 4 locations, there's an inbound cost in addition to the shipping cost. Shipping costs will be mostly nullified because you'll be shipping by ground, but need to take that into account. If they're fast-moving SKUs, you may also consider doing FBA. We'll talk about FBA momentarily. If you have long-tail items, now that's a bit of a toss-up. If they're slow-moving and unless they have a good margin, you may decide whether to do SFP or not. So this is a bit of a stronger statement here. You will need to look at this on a case-by-case basis, as long as, but you have to account for storage and inbound transportation. And oversized items, they have a different metric with respect to the new Prime guidelines. So oversized items are any item that are 18 by 14 by 8, anything larger than that, or higher than 20 pounds. Either one, either the dimensions are higher or the weight is higher, will be classified as oversized items. And the national SFP requirements are far more relaxed, that you can continue to do a lot of regional. So if you decide to do Amazon FBA, you need to be aware of Amazon FBA rules and Amazon FBA fees. Amazon FBA fees can be a bit of an iceberg. It may look oversimplified, but sellers have often shared that it's really hard to reconcile them. There's also storage limits, or how many units you can send. If they are brand new ASINs, you're limited to 200. You also need to maintain what they call the IPI, Inventory Performance Index. That means you cannot use FBA for long-term storage unless your Inventory Performance Index is high. Those products may not requalify for replenishments, and you may start incurring additional fees. In addition to that, FBA has peak seasonal charges, which is the storage fees, and all numerous other fees are several times more during Q4, something you need to be aware of. And they're constantly changing requirements with respect to FBA that you need to stay on top of. And also, you are more likely to receive higher returns on FBA because the customer can invoke the return without even consulting with you. So something to be aware of. If you choose not to do SFP, you can certainly outsource all your fulfillment to FBA, but be aware of the FBA guidelines and also the inventory prep requirements. You can elect not to do Prime at all and only offer standard shipping. That is only a solution if you don't have a lot of competition. because large majority of Amazon shoppers are Prime shoppers. So you will have an impact that may have an impact on your sales because Amazon prioritizes Prime offers over non-Prime. So unless you're in a very unique category with not a lot of competition, that might work. And you may consider diversifying. There's a lot of opportunity in other channels that our next speaker from GeekSeller can talk about. That's what they do. So I'm going to hand it over to GeekSeller now.
Okay, thank you, Manish. So what we've seen at GeekSeller is you want to diversify your marketplace channels as well as your fulfillment centers. So definitely over this time of COVID, we have seen a lot of marketplace sellers specifically coming from Amazon, where Amazon would stop shipping their products for a certain period of time, or they would just stop accepting inbounds. This obviously will affect your business. So it is, you can't really plan for a situation like COVID, but you can plan to have other fulfillment channels that will kind of pick up the slack when one of them, in this case, FBA, decides to kind of throw a wrench in your plans. Can you go to the next slide? This is something that we have found out just from being in the space. Increasing your sales channels leads to an increase of sales. Up to 200% when you add up to 3 additional marketplaces in addition to your primary marketplace or your website. Can you go to the next slide? Now, this is something that goes in line with what Cahoot was talking about earlier. When you do, it mentions specifically trends that we found in Walmart, but as you can see, there's a strong correlation between expedited delivery promise and conversion rates, which leads to more sales. The increase from standard shipping, which would be the 7 to 5 days, which is your other option if you choose not to do an SFP, is you can see 50% from increasing just from a standard delivery promise to a 2-day promise. So I can only imagine what a 1-day promise would increase your sales to. Can you go to the next slide? From the GeekSeller platform, you can integrate with multiple fulfillment channels, including your own personal warehouse, and GeekSeller will route orders based on automation rules or available inventory. So you can connect multiple fulfillment channels to our platform. You can have inventory there. We can make automation rules based on you would like to have this channel be a priority for fulfillment, and then you would like to use another fulfillment channel as kind of a plan B. Also, your personal warehouse, you can have orders come in through all your marketplaces. And from there, if they're assigned to your personal warehouse, you can integrate with hundreds of shipping carriers and purchase the shipping label and print that through our platform. The quantity distribution is what I was mentioning earlier. So you can connect your multiple fulfillment channels to our platform. So say that you are working with Cahoot, another 3PL, and you have your own personal warehouse. Each one of these has inventory available in them. So what will happen is that GeekSeller, you'll be able to see where all of your inventory is based on which fulfillment channel, but the marketplace will just get the sum total of all of that inventory. You can connect multiple marketplaces to one node. That way that your marketplaces will all share inventory from your fulfillment channels, and GeekSeller will handle the order routing based on those automation rules or the available inventory. You can also set up quantity rules. These quantity rules, they're very successful on eBay. This is where if you wanted to prevent overselling of your products, we can institute a quantity rule that when there's actually 3 or a random number available in of your available inventory, we would actually trigger an inventory update of 0 to be sent to the marketplace. That way you will no longer get orders for that specific SKU, and that way you will not be able to oversell your products. Next slide, please. Okay, and that's it from GeekSeller. If you'd like to know more, please reach out to Daniel, who will be able to answer your questions in the chat, or schedule a demo, and we'd be happy to go over it with you. So back to Manish.
Thank you, James. Really exciting metrics there with 3+ channels and what delivery speed does to conversion. So thank you for sharing. And Walmart marketplace is really hot. So certainly encourage sellers to look at multi-channel selling. With respect to not having all your eggs in a single warehouse or a single FBA basket, that is the new world. And what we have here for you is there are 3 ways you can expand your fulfillment capabilities. Of course, the most obvious one is adding more warehouses of your own. However, the data that we have is the industrial rents are at all-time high because of the scarcity of warehouses, and therefore this is going to be a pricey investment, especially when the demand is high and supply is low. And then you have to research and find these warehouses to lease or to buy. Then think about the security deposit that you'd have to put up to acquire that. And as we saw, to meet the February requirements, you need 4 locations. So, and another research from Cahoot reveals that most of, so you'll need about 4 warehouses, and you'll need to hire new people to manage that operation. Although the cost of additional infrastructure may be fixed in terms of rent and utilities and staffing, it is going to be hard to achieve high efficiency in the early days because you will probably not utilize those all 4 warehouses to optimum capacity, and therefore your cost per unit could be significantly higher, not to mention the operation and technology requirements that you need to now route orders, purchase the label from the right carrier using buy shipping, and if you elect to push that cutoff time further later in the day, and you need to get the orders out and give them to the carriers for origin scan, and also making sure you don't run into oversell situation. So a complex undertaking in our view. However, the merits of this strategy is, of course, you have full control. You can do whatever you want. If you have custom products and any kind of custom requirements, you can do it however you please. So there's some advantages in terms of control. The second strategy is outsourcing to 3PLs. There are about 20,000 3PL companies out there, and two-thirds of the 3PL companies are mom and pop operations. What that means is they only have 1 to maximum 3 locations, and most of the 3PLs are single location operations. So you'll need anywhere between 3 to 8 partners, or 3 to 8 3PLs that you'll have to negotiate with. Each 3PL has their own contract, their own service level agreements, and then you will need the technology to route all these orders to the right place and ensure inventory control. And there's not a lot of software and technology available to make all this happen. And in many cases, the 3PL may require you to integrate with their system as opposed to they operating out of your system. And all of this, you need to achieve 99% on-time shipping, which can be somewhat challenging. And also, each 3PL specializes in their own product category, so you might have to also look at that to ensure that they can handle your products. And the other option is to join a peer-to-peer fulfillment network, such as Cahoot. Cahoot has created a new business model with sellers just like yourself, who may be operating with a single warehouse. However, they can now also offer fulfillment services to other sellers in different regions. And all of this is orchestrated through Cahoot. So essentially, on the Cahoot peer-to-peer fulfillment network, we have SFP merchants who are living and breathing this SFP guidelines every day, unlike a 3PL, which may or may not be familiar with SFP, and most 3PLs shy away from doing SFP orders to begin with. So Cahoot bridges that gap and also makes a revenue stream, an income stream available to merchants who wish to participate, not only as a seller who can outsource their fulfillment to the Cahoot network, but also to act as a fulfillment partner and make money fulfilling orders for Cahoot. And there's no integration needed in this particular case. There's a single agreement if you choose to come onto Cahoot. There's a single pricing, single SLA that applies across the board, across all locations. So this could be a really easy way for sellers to get started. Low setup fees. From an operation cost perspective, there is a monthly platform fee that you need to be aware of, but it makes the job of order routing and fulfillment really simple, because the Cahoot software enables merchants and sellers to print their labels from their warehouse using the same identical software as getting full visibility into their orders fulfilled by any of the Cahoot locations. So the one software to print all your labels, SFP, non-SFP, Amazon, non-Amazon, and we integrate with GeekSeller so they can pretty much bring orders from just about every channel, and you can utilize the same software to ensure that every order gets shipped on time, be it from your warehouse or from any of the Cahoot locations. And on top of that, Cahoot has a operations team that is keeping on top of these SFP orders to ensure that all the fulfillment partners are abiding by the strict standards, they are properly vetted, and to ensure that your metrics are not compromised. But again, in terms of control, similar to FBA, Cahoot network is not designed for a long-term storage, and you still have to prep your inventory just as you would to send to FBA, barcoding and packaging requirements. And you may not be able to do the level of customization that you would do in your own warehouse, but that's intended to keep the cost low. So if you're interested, please reach out. We'd love to chat with you. And I'll summarize to make sure we have enough room for Q&A. 3 big changes as part of the new SFP program, and coming in 2 phases, February 1 and June 1. 1-day, 2-day calendar day delivery promise on the product details page on Amazon. Weekend pickups and delivery. So Amazon wants you to be shipping orders out to either Saturday or Sunday. And now there's no more regional prime for standard products. You must offer national prime, or you will not be eligible for SFP. This will result in higher competition. The sellers that offer nationwide prime will encroach your turf if you have not been seeing them previously. And the folks that can figure out how to do this with good unit economics are likely to win, and not just on Amazon, but very soon they'll offer the similar promise on other channels. So all channels will benefit. 3 ways to cope: add additional warehouses of your own, outsource to multiple 3PLs, or join a peer-to-peer fulfillment network such as Cahoot. I'm going to hand this over to you, Mike.
Oh, great. Thanks, Manish. Yeah, just a couple of quick things, and we'll move on to the live Q&A session. I do want to just offer up the ability for people to request specific information. If you want information about GeekSeller or any of the Kahoot services that we talked about, you're welcome to answer that poll here, or just reach out to us on some of the other contact ways that we'll talk about here in a minute. And while everyone's working on that poll, I'll go ahead and cover some of the questions that seem to come up quite a lot. And there is a flood of questions that we haven't gotten to, and we'll try to get to those. Again, if we can't get to those here live, we'll get to them, get back to you by email. So one of the questions that came up is, can I just turn off SFP on the weekends?
I can take that one, Mike. No, the answer is a loud no. You cannot turn off SFP on the weekend. Certainly, Amazon has given some flexibility for sellers to operate either Saturday or Sunday. The intention behind these changes is Amazon wants SFP program to mirror FBA. So FBA ships out on Saturday and Sunday, and slowly they want sellers to do the same. So unfortunately, sellers will not be able to turn off this entirely on the weekend, but they can pick Saturday or Sunday.
All right. And you talked about this idea of extending the same-day shipping cutoff as a way to increase the page views, the page view metric there. And one person's asking about, basically saying that it takes some hours to rate shop labels. How is it possible to extend the cutoff time to half an hour before pickup?
Yeah, that's a great question. Again, just for sake of clarity, there is some flexibility for sellers to adjust their same-day cutoff on the weekend, so it doesn't have to be 2 p.m. There's some flexibility there, but if you're going to operate, you might as well get more mileage out of that if you're going to bring staff in. So you can cut it off as early as 10:30 local time. With respect to labels, again, a Kahoot shipping software is designed, which is built in as part of the platform. So Kahoot has a shipping software that is built as part of the platform that allows sellers to print their labels, and it also makes it a one-click operation for the fulfillment partners. So fulfillment partners don't have to do any rate shopping or anything. They just do one click, and literally they print the packing slip and the shipping label. Kahoot employs machine learning, so things are really fast. All of this happens automatically. I know of one seller that started using our platform, and they saw 10 to 20 times speed increase. So anybody who is interested in learning about that portion of the platform will be happy to answer that. But in Kahoot, once configured correctly, humans don't even have to be involved with label generation, and we ensure that we print the cheapest label that complies with the SLAs.
Great. All right. And, a few of the, actually quite a few of the attendees today, already have multiple warehouses and sounds like are working with 3PLs. And there's a question about, can Kahoot help with, or can integrate or help with integrating with, their existing 3PLs?
I'm sorry to hog up all the time, so I apologize if, but if there's anything for James, if you want to pipe in on any of these, please do so. But with Kahoot, peer-to-peer network is designed to be open, flexible, and agile. As long as those 3PLs can operate within the Kahoot platform and Kahoot software, we invite sellers to bring them with them. So we have no intention of disrupting a perfectly great relationship, but as long as those 3PLs can operate within the Kahoot system, which is very easy, and it will actually cut down the setup fees and time, and it's proven. It's pretty complicated in terms of what happens behind the scenes. And they can use Kahoot to augment additional locations that they like. So we invite sellers to bring those 3PLs. We invite 3PLs to come join the Kahoot network as well.
All right. And there's a question about standard sizing, about the difference between standard and oversized, I believe, in terms of requirements.
Yes, there are different metrics for SFP with respect to standard and oversized. So standard, any item that is larger than 18 inches by 14 inches by 8, length, width, height, 18 by 14 by 8, or higher than 20 pounds, greater than 20 pounds, will be classified as oversized. And the page view requirements for those oversized items are considerably less than the standard items.
All right. And there's another kind of technical question here. Does date and timestamp of transmitting the tracking number to Amazon make a difference? For example, if we process the order in the morning, but do not manifest the package until the afternoon, does it matter?
No, not really. As long as the tracking information is written back to Amazon that day before the carrier scan. So you want to definitely you don't want to have a one-day delay. You want to get it a few hours is fine. But Amazon, until you submit the tracking information, Amazon has no knowledge whether the item was shipped on time or not. So even if you shipped it but did not write the tracking information back to Amazon, that can hurt you. So you should try and get that as real time as possible. Going a little technical here, but if it's a prime order, the label has to be purchased via by shipping 99% of the time. So in that particular case, you don't have to write anything because Amazon already has that information.
All right, thank you. And another question that this has come up a couple different times. People are asking about, can I offer one-day shipping on certain regions, for example, New York, and offer one day to Northeast and then 2-day to the rest? And they're asking if they can do that and still meet the page view requirements.
I doubt it because you don't get to control the traffic on Amazon. So unless you can somehow control all the page views only coming from Northeast, the intention, it's important to understand Amazon's intention. Amazon's intention is to move the Prime program from 2-day standard to 1 day. So that's what they are asking sellers to do, that no matter where the customer is located, they want that customer to have 1-day delivery option. So it might be possible, but I doubt it because you cannot control the traffic on your product pages.
All right. And this is, I guess, more of a comment from somebody, but I think the group might like to know is that shipping on weekend means that there has to be movement, not just a pickup. If the carrier doesn't move in your area, you're out of luck. So just kind of distinguishing package movement versus just pickup. Let's see, I think that is going to cover a lot of the questions. Let me see if we've got anything else here. Yeah, someone's asking if the Q&A can be available to be viewed after the webinar. Yeah, that's a great question. We will be sending a recording of the whole webinar out, so you're welcome to go through that and fast forward through stuff you remember and cover other things you don't. And we will try to get back with anybody that does have questions that we haven't. And one last thing before we wrap up is right at the end here, there will be a quick poll just to get your feedback on the content of the webinar today. And that'd be a really big help to us if you could take just 10 10 seconds and let us know what you thought of the webinar. That'll pop up right after we wrap up today. And just want to thank James and Daniel from GeekSeller for helping us out today with this webinar and getting it out to their audience and providing some great content, and to Manish and Aldi for fielding questions and pulling this all together. So thanks a lot for all that, and we hope that you got some good value out of today's webinar, and look forward to seeing you at future webinars. Thanks for attending today. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.